I knew it in advance. I think well, I don't want to say always, but most of the time I write for actors and actresses in mind, with their faces and their energies in mind. So it wasn't one of them in particular, it was all of them, actually.
And can you talk about the process that when you're writing and when you're starting a script, whether it's original or it comes from a play like this?
Well, so an original screenplay for me is you know, the idea stems from, it comes from very little things. It can be, often it'll be music that I hear, a piece of music, whether it's an artist's song or an instrument piece, that can inspire a scene or a character, and then from the scene, an entire film. It can be so many things. It can be the desire to work with an actress or an actor. It can be an article that I read. The impetus is often very can seem insignificant. It is to me actually quite relevant here in a song, or that is enough to inspire a whole film, a whole story. In this case, it was the play, so everything was there on paper already. It was complicated to adapt because the second half of the play is an absolute abstraction. It's not at all, you know, it's not scenes happening in rooms with precise characters. It was really just actors on the stage saying things and not really answering one another. So it was a bit trickier, I guess, for the second half. But so there was a lot of work there because you know, we need a sense of structure and progression, and that was a bit more work. But the beginning was really. It was always out of the question to change the very precise vernacular of Jean-Luc Lagarce. It was that you know, that the characters were initially very loquacious, verbose, nervous, but that to me was very telling of their you know, the pain they were concealing behind all these words, behind the flow of, you know, of their, yeah. So I didn't want to lose that. And I think the actors from the very beginning, it was clear that this would be a challenge and, you know, possibly a hurdle, and that we would need to overcome that. But I think what brought us together was the desire to pay a tribute to a great mind of you know, a great French playwright who's left us a legacy which basically says we talk and talk and talk and avoid saying the essential. We say everything but the essential. So when I adapted the play, it was always clear that I wanted to keep that aspect of the play.
And somewhat related to that, can you talk about then the trust that you have with your collaborators, certainly with your producer who you've worked with before, and how you build that trust with your actors who are all so strong and talented?
Well, it's a matter of mutuality. There's it works in both ways. If I start with Nancy, when we first met, we first collaborated on Tongue of the Farm. She is the one who trusted me to begin with this idea, and who supported me and helped me get through production. She was not initially on board, but she came on board while we were shooting the film. And I didn't know her very well at the moment. She sort of rescued the film, and it is only in the... What, you want me to say it?
No, you say whatever.
Okay. You want me to say the truth? Or let the truth get in the way of a good story. Anyway, and so it was only in the editing suite when Nancy came to see me because I was editing Ton of the Farm, and she would start giving me notes. And at first I was not shocked, but discombobulated by the precision, the scalpel precision of her notes. I didn't know. I was like, notes on acting, notes on seconds of frames, and finally I admired that. I admire her. I admire, and still do, her precision and her thirst for what's right and what's good and what's and so we've never stopped working together ever since. And she did Mommy, and then this one. To me, it's working with her, working with you is. I trust her to always tell me when she thinks I'm wrong, and when she thinks something is not as good as it could be or should be. And that is basically what I'm looking for in all the people I work with, the actors, but also the cinematographer. It's a matter of being able to tell someone that's not good, and for them to tell you you're wrong and you're not good right now. That's not good. This could be better. And we aim for something that we want, to be perfect. And for the actors, well, I don't know. It's just a matter of I want to work with actors that I admire, so I put myself in situations and environments where I know that I work with people whose work I worship, and so it starts that way. We have a mutual respect, I think, for each other, and we are excited to create. I love to work with actors who are creative, actors who suggest, who have ideas. What matters is not really my ideas, is just ideas, as long as we have some.
Can I respond to some of what he said? I think that also, beside the artistic collaboration, there is a lot of friendship that has defined our relationship throughout the years. And that's very important. I think mutual love and trust and admiration. And I read like some friend of mine had me read a quote last night from Tennessee Williams about, I guess he wasn't talking about movies, but about pieces of art and how they should impact the ones who see them. And it ends with this idea that an accomplished art piece is a piece that takes the audience home, like it takes you home. And I think that being a producer is, with the filmmaker you work with, is trying to always take him home. Like, you have to do this job of making sure he doesn't get lost, that he remembers why he decided to write a film or who he was writing it for, and it's just my reflection on Tennessee Williams and my relationship with Xavier.
That's wonderful. And Gaspard?
Yes. Yeah, well, I have many things to say. Well, first of all, I think I'm really lucky to be part of this film. Because Xavier, I don't know how you say it anyway, is one of those directors any actor would kill to work with, really, seriously. Because all the time, he tends to put the actor's performances at the center of his work. So it's such a comfortable place for us actors to be on set with Xavier. It's so reassuring because actor himself, that he will do anything to try to enhance, sublimate, and surpass what you give him throughout the takes on set.
And the music, you talked a little bit about the music, and certainly with all of your films, music is another character. Can you talk about the choices that you made with the music in this film?
Terrible choices, mostly. So in terms of songs and artists, because there's the score obviously by Gabriel Yared, whom I'm in awe. I mean, I love his work so much, and I admire him very much. He actually intimidates me, but he does, and he would intimidate you too. It's very, but I think in terms of choosing music pieces, it's more and more about the context and choosing songs that are used in a diegetic way that will play, on the radio or in a room where someone is I don't know, or in a car or in a cafe. It's not about songs and music playing on the film anymore. It used to be a lot, and I think that I explored that approach with music for a while, where it would be there would be episodes in my films where you knew this was even sort of like a musical intermission, and you just left the narrative, and it was like a withdrawal, and you were suddenly somewhere else. And now, since Mommy, I think, I was curious to use music in another way. What are the characters listening to? What's logically and realistically playing on the radio, in their cars? That reflection started with Nancy, actually, when we were talking about Mommy, and I asked her, do you think I have the right to use Dido's White Flag on the opening credits? And she said, what do you mean the rights? And I was like, I don't know, is it? And she was like, no, I think people will be delighted to hear that song. And I was like, oh, people will be pleased, that's what she said. And I was like, yeah, people are going to be pleased. And then I realized that, it's okay for some things to be pleasant in movies. I obviously some of these choices would seem unthinkable for a lot of artists. They feel like choosing a Dragostedt, I don't know how to pronounce that name, the song when they're dancing in the kitchen. Dragostedt, anyway, the Ozone song, terrible music video in the airplane. And it's actually a song that, doesn't register as extraordinary or excellent, but it is, I think, pleasant to hear, at least in that context. And for some people, obviously, it's straying from, the right path. But to me, music is another sense that you add to the film, and it's also that the people in a theater, at least when I'm in the theater and I hear a song, it's sort of the only moment and only opportunity that I have as one of the audience to contribute to the writing of a film. People have shot this film, they've edited this film, we say that editing is the second or third writing, third writing, but there's a fourth one, and it's music. And the communication between that piece of music, whether it is a piece like this one, or like Moby's Natural Blues, or those songs or songs that with which we have a history, memories are associated with these songs. When you hear them, you can't help but remember certain things, even unconsciously. And these things, that intimacy of yours is brought to contribution. You yourself are rewriting the story, and I always feel that this is what music should be doing. It is what inspires me to write films, and thus it should also be what inspires people while they're watching it. It's sort of a second stream of narrative. I don't know what a stream of narrative is, but I intend on finding out.
Well, I do, thank you. I do want to open it up to some questions from the audience. I'm sure they have some. So let's start. Let's see. Oh, yes, right in the middle.
For Mr. Dolan, which character do you feel the most affinity for or reminds you of yourself?
Oh, the question was, which character do you feel you have the most affinity for that reminds you the most of yourself?
Trap.
Can I answer?
You should, and they'll know it's true. Well, the character I feel the most for, and not I feel the most affinity with, but I feel the most for, I will say, is the character of, no offense, is the character of Antoine, the older brother. He's obviously quite despicable and hard to follow and understand, but at the same time, not really. It's just someone who's that loud, someone who's that negative, dark, is evidently someone who's concealing a great deal of pain, and he's not easy to love. I did warn you in the beginning because I guess I'm scared that people won't love these characters as much as I did love them when I read the play, when I wrote the script, when I directed the film, when I edited the performances. I've never had such a love story with characters like that, like that love story. So my answer could also be a bit less, it could be a bit more, I could tell you I feel for all of them. There's a huge part of me also in all of them, which is inevitable for me. I can't not put a part of me in characters. It's unavoidable. In order for me to understand them, and they're not me, but there's a huge part of me in them. But I'd say Antoine.
All right, do we have another question? Oh yeah, I see way up in the back, yes?
When you're taking something that's initially written for the stage, how do you maintain those formal and aesthetic qualities that make your films so notable?
Where are you? Okay. So the question was, sorry, when I didn't make out everything.
When you take something that's originally written for the stage, how do you maintain the formal qualities cinematically that makes your film so famous?
I guess one of there was there's a voice-over device in the play which works quite well on stage and not so well at the movies. I mean, it could have worked, but it was also a very the vernacular of La Gasse is so sophisticated. When you have actors that are that talented, whose body language is sort of competing with the complexity of what they're saying, how repetitive it is, how bizarrely structured it is. When their body language is competing with that, there's a sense of balance. When it's only a voiceover, I felt it would have been too much. So that was abated, and we never went for that voiceover, which it would have been, I guess, easier for Gaspard. This character can be very, opaque, very hard to grasp, although you did beautifully, but I guess formally, I couldn't really keep any of the ideas of the play, which really applied to something you read or something you watch on stage. But something that was very clear with his work, this playwright's work and his legacy, is that for him, there is an irony in his own work, and he is almost laughing at himself for writing so profusely all that dialogue, so much dialogue, that in the end says, none of this matters because we've used, so many detours, and we've finally circumvented what matters, and the essential, and the truth will remain forever unknown. And he seems to know that when he's writing. There's an irony in the fact that people are, the characters are talking, and in the end they're unable to say to each other, I love you, or to say what matters. The only way to mirror that when on set, logically, was well, not logically, it wasn't logical, but the only way to honor that irony was to get very, very close to the characters with all those close-ups, because those close-ups are so close to the eyes, the mouths, the body language, the language of the face, that you understand that it's what's happening here that matters. What's happening, when the characters are silent, when they're looking at each other. That's where the film lies. And that was my only way, the only way that I found where I could feel I wasn't betraying the original material. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's the only way I could think of.
And so for Gaspard, that must have been, was that challenging to know that you were in close-up so much, and that so much was riding on
Well,
your own?
it's fun because on the first day, I remember Xavier tried a different way of filming, where he decided to make wider shots, frames where you could have multiple characters in the same shot. And I remember within the first day, you decided to change this, and you could feel the camera coming closer and closer. And in the end, he said, "Okay, that's the correct way of filming this story," and then he never changed it back. So yeah, like on the second day we had this camera really close, and yeah, 90% of the film is shot in very tight close-ups. And it's true that as an actor at some point, but it's a bit weird because you feel like under the eye of a microscope. But I think it was a brilliant idea because not only it adds to the suffocating, asphyxiating atmosphere of the films, but above all, I think it allows Xavier to capture the slightest twitch, quiver, breath, blink of an eye. And in the context of this story, it's like if the most minute movement is a potential explosion. So it keeps the audience on the edge of their seats.
I think also I've read a lot of well, I've not read, but I remember when Mommy was released, and that's a similar decision because Mommy was shot in 1:1 and in a lot of close-ups, and a lot of people think that this is a device to bring some sort of tension or some feeling of or stress, some feeling of imprisonment, but really there's one thing that, and I wish I could say that more often when people ask me about those close-ups, because one of the reasons also why I shot like that is not only because I wanted to do what I explained previously or what you said, is also because I love actors and I don't want to miss a thing. And there are so many things happening in their eyes, how they breathe, it's just, for me, it's just, it is an opportunity of having live portraits of great performers, and I don't want to miss that. I don't want to,
Well, it's beautiful. Thank you for bringing the film to the festival and for coming
Thank
to
you.
present it to our audiences.
Thank you.
Thank you.